When I put my hands on somebody, I place my hand and then I start to breathe and relax, and I let go of myself and allow myself to sink into the person that I'm placing my hand on. As I do that, my hands start to get really hot, and I start pushing and transferring energy both in and out. First to break it up, and then my body absorbs it, and I'll burn it off as a fever later on. So I've done it my whole life. I'm still not quite sure how it works, but I know what it does. It transfers energy. It's like a channel. First I open up the blockages, and then my body absorbs it, and I'll burn it off. My hands get really, really hot, and that energy breaks up what's blocking in your body, and when it breaks up, it transfers back into my body, and I burn it off as a fever.
What do you feel when you're working with somebody?
It depends on what the person's holding. I feel all of the emotions that they have locked in there. If it's anger, I'll go through that. Frustration, fears, doubts, whatever the emotions that they shoved in there, I'll experience all of those as they let go.
What do they feel when you're working?
Sometimes they feel the emotions, other times just a heat, release, and sometimes just relaxations. It's different for everybody, and it really depends on how you're holding the energy to begin with. Some people shove things down really tightly, and other people hold it temporarily and numb themselves with food and drink and let it go that way. So everybody, the way they hold their emotions. I deal with people who have cancer. I've dealt with people with osteoporosis, quite a few with osteoporosis, Hashimoto's, lupus, COVID, lots of other things. Primarily, though, I deal with people that are in terminal positions where the medical community has given up on them. I just helped a gentleman with a stenosis in his head. It was a highly severe stenosis. It's gone down to a moderate. He's sleeping. He's not in pain anymore. And we dealt with the emotions that he was shoving down in order to let those go. Anxiety is the easiest. Just teaching people how to deal with their empathy. I've helped 27 people to date get off of their medications for that. One person was on 10 different medications for anxiety and different emotional things. He's been off of those for 6 years. It's really just teaching people how to deal with the emotions they feel from the outside world. And for that, we go on field trips. I take people to Costco or Walmart on a Saturday morning because those are two of the most toxic places you can walk into. And it allows me to see not only how they lock up their energy, but where they start to give it away, where they take things that don't belong to them. And I'm able to observe it and point it out in a manner that they can't deny it. So it forces them to change those habits and own their own responsibility for their health. Everything comes from inside. We look for things outside because it makes it feel better, but healing comes from inside. And when our body's out of balance, everything else is. So the hardest issue for me is gut issues, because that depends on your daily diet, what you're eating, the toxicity of the food, and whether you're using the food to shove emotions down or just to nourish yourself. There's a difference. So energetically, that's the hardest issue for me to deal with, because there's so many different habits and things we use to put our gut out of balance. And in my experience, 95% of all our illnesses come from the gut area. Whether it's a headache, most people, when they have tension in their neck and head, it's actually originating in the stomach. So if you say your shoulders all lock up, if you squeeze the muscle in the shoulder, you'll feel the place in the stomach where it's pulling. At that point, if you squeeze the muscle in the shoulder and rub out the knot in the stomach, both of them will disappear simultaneously, because they originated in the stomach. And that's from either shoving down your emotions or your frustration or your anger, or even just saying yes when you really wanted to say no. One of the biggest things that makes people sick is the inability to say no, or to set a boundary on what they're willing to do or not do. And that forces them to either shove their energy down or give it away in a manner that isn't healthy for them. So it's finding that balance and what works with you and your own integrity. So that's the hardest, I think, part with all of this, is people finding their own integrity and getting past the programming of woulda, shoulda, coulda, and actually just honoring themselves first.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
You're welcome.